Hey, what's up? This is Nick with Rider Magazine, and today we just got wrapped up riding something truly exciting. This is the brand new 2021 Yamaha MT-09. Now you guys know, and a lot of you probably love the MT-09 because Yamaha has sold over 25,000 of these things since it was first introduced in 2014. Of course, the beloved masterpiece of the MT-09 is its triple cylinder engine, which has received a major update for this year, along with the rest of the package, which according to Yamaha is over 90% new. Now there's a couple bits and bobs that they brought back from the previous generation MT-09, like the brake calipers and rotors and a couple other things, but when we're talking engine, chassis, electronics, looks, and just about everything else, that's all brand new. So we're gonna get into it in this first ride review, and I hope you guys stick around. So, the first thing I would like to talk about is the brand new engine. Now, I know MT-09 fans are a little worried about updating the engine because, well, it is one of the best in the business. However, this thing, it's great. Now, the main talking points for this are the fact that it's grown in displacement. It's gone up from about 847 cc's to 890 cc's, and it's also bumped up the power a little bit. So according to Yamaha, it now produces 6% more torque, and that is something that you can definitely feel. So it has a new intake, new airbox, new crankshaft, new camshafts, new forged pistons, etc., etc. And what that leads to is just a much more meaty engine. It's just got a little bit more torque on the bottom end, a little bit more mid-range, and then when you put it up at around 6,500, maybe 7,000 RPM, really just gets up and goes. But most importantly is that it's a bit smoother, and that's mainly because the crankshaft has gained 15% inertia, so it is a little bit heavier. And typically what that does is kind of smooth engines out a hair, and that's exactly what they've done here. So as I said before, you get on the gas right off the light, start slipping the brand new slipper clutch, and it just picks up and goes super smooth. The really important thing about this bike is that despite the fact that it makes a little bit more power, it's spread across the entire rev range and distributed a little bit better all around. So it's very tractable, very easy to use, and below that 6,500 RPM mark, it's a very friendly motorcycle. So when you're riding at low speeds, you're in the city or urban areas like downtown Los Angeles, like where we are, it's very user friendly. But when you want to have some fun, this thing is great, and you can get on the pipe and have some serious fun in the canyons. So that's what I really liked about it. Another aspect and another marked improvement over the MT-09 that I really enjoyed is the fact that the gearbox has been updated. So now it has a different shift fork in it, much more positive shifts, and it also comes with an up-down quickshifter. So you can just blast through the gearbox with no problem, and that's a big advantage over the previous generation. So let's go ahead and move to some other aspects of the bike, like the all-new chassis. So this is a brand new aluminum frame, brand new swing arm. Even the suspension is now updated. If you guys think back to the original MT-09 and the second generation MT-09, one of its weakest points was the suspension. Of course, we have the 41mm KYB fork, which is fully adjustable, and then the KYB shock, which features preload and rebound damping only. However, the main things that they have done, and one of the biggest problems they have solved with the MT-09, is that they have increased the spring rates and damping rates along with a much stiffer chassis. So this thing feels much more planted on the edge of the tire. It turns in much more aggressively and still retains a lot of stability, whether you're on the brakes or getting on the gas. It's a much more stable machine. So how do they do that outside of stiffening the suspension? Now, to make it handle a little bit better, they actually dropped the head tube a whopping 30 millimeters. Now, if you think about motorcycle design, that's actually helping you put weight on the front. It's making that front end a little bit more sensitive to your inputs and things of that nature. So this bike, I feel like you ride on the nose a little bit more than previous generations of the MT-09. But like I said before, stiffer chassis all around, better suspension, and that makes for just a better ride. That said, and although I've highlighted the fact that it handles much better at pace when you're still riding the beat up streets of downtown LA, it's still a very comfortable machine. The damping is still adequately damped and sprung for casual riding as well as sporty riding. Tying into that is going to be the brand new electronics package that the MT-09 has. And that starts with a 6-axis IMU derived from the R1. So of course you get traction control, slide control, wheelie control, and multiple ride modes. And because this is a street bike, Yamaha has done something really cool where they've essentially just packaged all of your electronics into one thing. So from your dash, if you turn on the bike, you'll have selectable ride modes, or the D modes as Yamaha calls them. And your ride modes go from level 1 to 4, 1 being the most aggressive and 4 cutting the power and essentially being a rain mode. Now, if you just want to cycle through everything, you can select your TC modes here, or TCS modes. And what that does is actually simultaneously adjust all of your rider aids in one go. So you have 2 modes of that. And then you have a manual mode where you can go into the dash, dial in your traction control, slide control, wheelie control, so on and so forth, and it will save your settings. Now, importantly, you also have 2 ABS braking modes. You have a static non-IMU using level 1, which is probably best used on a racetrack scenario, and then level 2, which uses the IMU. So that is a big step up all around for electronics with the MT-09. And another thing I should note is the brand new TFT display. Now, it is not the biggest and flashiest among this class of motorcycle. Things like the BMW F900R are a little bit bigger and flashier. That's fine. Sometimes size doesn't matter. That's something that you should always remind yourself. However, this thing is very legible, it's clean and clear to read, it's very succinct and to the point. So moving on from there, other aspects of the bike that I want to talk about are the updated ergonomics. So it is relatively similar in terms of seating position and everything else to the MT-09. It's still an upright riding position. You got some nice leg room, but you can also adjust your handlebar position forward to make it a little bit more aggressive. You also raise the rear foot pegs up a little bit into 2 different positions just to customize your height or the position of your foot pegs just for you, which is really cool. I think that's a great feature. Now, according to the spec sheet, this seat is actually 0.2 higher than before. So now it sits at something like 32.7 inches. But despite that, raise in seat height, it's still a bike that, because it's so narrow right here at its tank seam, I can get my boots on the ground easily. And I have a 32-inch inseam, stand at 5'10" inches, so pretty average proportions. So someone shorter than me will be able to touch the ground and be confident in that regard. That is something that's quite cool. Now, all of these changes have added up to a bike that weighs a bit less. And circling back to the handling aspect of this machine, when you add all of that up, you have a bike that has a claimed wet weight of 417 pounds. The other thing that I want to mention real quick is that we're also using Bridgestone S22 rubber, and that's a very good tire for sporty riding. And the wheels themselves are also new and feature less inertia. Now, as you guys know, you reduce unsprung weight, actually makes the bike handle a little bit better. So some of that handling credit has got to go to the wheels. Now, talking on the ride-by-wire throttle maps, if we talk about level 1, that is the most aggressive. And unlike the previous MT-09, which used nomenclature of A, standard, and B, and I found the A map to be borderline unusable, the level 1 mode here, although it's the most aggressive and most sharp, I actually enjoy it. Some people may not prefer that. However, level 2, plenty sporty, and you're going to get your kicks that way. And then level 3 tames things a bit, and the level 4 is actually the de facto rain mode, and it's just got a nice soft buttery throttle response. So breaking it all down here, wrapping it up so the boys can go home. What do you get for an additional $400 compared to the previous MT-09? A whole lot of bike. I think Yamaha has done a really good job with this. Again, you have a pretty incredible 3-cylinder engine, a very good electronics package, a much improved chassis, and it's still a great value. So in my book, that's a win. Now, I'm really excited to get this back to the shop and do some comparison stories, because I think this thing, you know, it's going to put it to them. But we're going to wrap it up here, and if you guys have any questions about the 2021 Yamaha MT-09, go ahead and drop them down below. The last thing I want to remind you guys to do out there is be safe out there. Now take care.